Okay, here we go. Number 1. The points 0, 1, 110, 2, 100, and 3, 1000 are on the graph of a function. Write an equation that represents the function. Now on the quiz, you're going to have multiple choice. So you'll have 4 choices to look at, and you'll just have to figure out which one would have these 4 points. But for this one, since we do not have equations to look at, we've got to write it ourselves. Do you notice a pattern in those points? Right, so the growth factor is 10, and then don't you raise that to the x power? And I mean, technically that's just your b to the x. Why is there no need to write an a value? Because the first one is 1. No, for this one it's just y equals a times b to the x. Alright, number 2, I would say it's probably going to be the most difficult one on the test or the quiz for y'all, so pay attention. The initial value of a particular vehicle is $40,000. After 1 year, the vehicle is worth $35,000. If the vehicle continues to depreciate at this exponential rate, write a model for the projected value of the vehicle. So y equals, what would the a value be? And then we're talking about a rate, and so that means we need to use that 1 plus or 1 minus. Which is it? Correct, because it's depreciating, it's losing value. Did they give us the rate, the r value? No. No. Did they give us the time? No, so you just put x. But you can figure out the r, because what else did they tell you? Right, after 1 year, the vehicle is worth $35,000, which is a what difference? So you can figure out the rate by taking that $5,000 difference and dividing it by the original cost. Okay, if you just figure out how much it's gone down in value and divide by its original value, it'll tell you what the rate is. Yeah, you can. 0.125. And then in that one, like that is, the decimal's already been moved. So that would have been what percent? 12.5%. Because think about it, if the decimal's already been moved to the left, originally wasn't it 12.5? So that's 12.5% that it's decreasing, and then to x years, because they don't tell us. I mean, they tell us after 1 year it's worth that, but that just helped us with the rate. They don't actually want you to give an answer, like they don't want you to tell how much it's worth now. They just want you to write a model, which is the same thing as creating the formula or the rule. Sometimes they use the word rule, sometimes they use the word model, sometimes they'll just say the formula. Yes? You can either go to alpha y equals number 4, or you can hit math and it's like number 1 or number 2. What? What? No, that's it. All they wanted was the model, and you've now written the model to represent that scenario. All right, number 3. Patsy decided to raise rabbits. She started out with 8 rabbits. At the end of the 7th year, she had determined that the population increases at an annual rate of 34%. Find the exponential function which describes how many rabbits she will have at the end of x years. So y equals, what is the starting value? 8. And then with a percentage, so we're going to be using that 1, we're going to be using that 1 plus or minus r. Is it plus or minus? Plus, because the population is increasing, and what is the rate? 0.34. And then what is the time period? X. This is a distractor. Okay, you do not plug in 7. That's not even necessary. That's just saying it took her 7 years to figure out what the rate was. We don't really care how long it took her, though. As long as we know the rate, that's all that matters. It tells you at the end of x years, so you plug in x for years. Now, say that you're taking the quiz on Monday, and none of the choices look identical to this. It may be because they go ahead and simplify what's in the middle, because can't you just add those two things together and get 1.34? So it may look like that instead. They may go ahead and add these two numbers together. Number 4, the amount of money A accrued at the end of the year in years when a certain amount P is invested at a compound annual rate R is given by A equals P times 1 plus R to the n power. Now, don't let that throw you off just because you're not as familiar with that formula. It is the same exact thing as y equals a times 1 plus r to the x power. It's just they're using different letters. They're using a for amount, p for principal, which is starting amount, and then n for number of years instead of x. So what can we plug in for the p? Correct, because that's what they invested at the beginning. That's the principal amount. That's why they call it p instead of a. Then is it 1 plus or 1? Well, they tell you 1 plus. What is the rate? 0.08. What did I tell you to do if you have trouble figuring out how to write it as a decimal? Divide by 100. So 8 divided by 100 is 0.08. And then to the what power? 10th power. Now for this question, they actually want you to find the balance. So you're going to have to calculate that. $755. Right. Okay, is everybody good with that one? All right, number 5. Oops. The projected worth in millions of dollars of a large company can be modeled using an exponential function. In 2008, the company was worth $24 million, and its worth has been growing at an annual rate of 12%. If this pattern of growth continues, what should the company be worth in 2015? So y equals what? Right, but instead of actually writing 24 and then all the zeros, I'm just going to write 24 and then at the end I'll write million on my answer. Okay, is it 1 plus or 1 minus? Hold on, let me fix the 4. It kind of looks like a 9. Okay, 1 plus because the company is growing. And then what rate? 0.12. And then what do we plug in for x for time period? 7 years. Because they started looking at it in 2008, and so now it's 7 years later. So all you have to do is plug that in. Yes. Because that's 2015 years later. I don't think that company will still be around. Okay, and what do you get? So isn't that about 53 million? It's multiple choice. Okay, next page, number 6. What function represents this sequence? Okay, so this one, if you look at the table, you'll see that instead of x and y, they call it n and a sub n. So we're going to be using the formulas over there on the right. What is the a sub 1? 7. And then the next thing is times the r. For this one, what's the r? How are they increasing each time? Times 4, and then to the n minus 1. And that's all you have to do. All they want is the function. Number 7, describe the pattern in this sequence. 2, 12, 72, 432. Then find the next 3 terms. Okay, what's the pattern? Right, they are multiplying by 6. And so the next term would be what? Right? Does everybody know how she got that? Just 432 times 6. And then the next one would be, right? And then the last term would be, right. Okay, so that should be an easy one on Monday's quiz. All right, number 8. Write the explicit formula for the geometric sequence. So right away, they tell you, use the explicit formula for a geometric sequence. So you'll know to use that one on the board over there that says a sub n equals a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1. Now, they tell you the a sub 1 is negative 3. They tell you the r is negative 5. And so now, isn't that the formula? But what else do they want you to do? How do we find the 5th term? Plug it in for n. So won't that end up being negative 3 times negative 5 to the 4th power? And so the 5th term is what? Right. Negative 1,875. All you have to do is plug in whatever term they're wanting in for the n place. Just like I plug it in for the n right here. A sub 5 equals, so since I replaced that in, you replace this in also. All right, number 9. Find the 7th term of this sequence. Well, right now they've given us how many terms? Correct. We have the first 4, so we want to find the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Well, to be able to do that, what do we have to know? What the r is. And what is the r? Okay, because they're multiplying by negative 3 every time. So the next term would be what? 648. And then the term after that would be? Correct. And then the term after that would be? Correct. 5,832. All right, number 10. Write a recursive rule, so this time recursive, which is that a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times the r. So all you have to figure out is the what? The r. How do you get from 4 to 1 and then 1 to 0.25? Right. Isn't it like dividing by 4 every time? But since we're not dividing with geometric sequences, how do you turn dividing by 4 into multiplication? Flip it. You multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 1 over 4. Okay, number 11. Find the first 5 terms of the sequence. How would we do that? You're looking for term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, and term 5. So how do you do that? No, look, all you have to do, like up here when they said find the 5th term, what did you do? You plugged in 5 for the n. So if you're trying to find the first term, what do you think you're going to do? Plug in 1 for n. So 5 to the first power is? And 5 minus 7 is? Negative 2. To find the second term, what do you think you're going to do? Plug 2 in for the n. 5 squared is 25. 25 minus 7 is 18. And then to find the third term, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to plug in 3. And 5 cubed is, and 125 minus 7 is, right? And then to find the fourth term, you're going to plug in 4. Anytime you're trying to find a term, you just plug in that number term in for the n, no matter what the formula is. 618. And then to find the 5th term, you just replace the n with a 5. So 5 to the 5th power minus 7 is 3,118. Now let me show you one other way you could have done this that would have been even faster. Any ideas? Well, you could graph it. Watch when I graph this. Y equals 5 raised to the n power, which we're going to use x for, minus 7. And then I'm just going to go straight to the table. Doesn't it say the first term is negative 2, the second term is 18, the third term is 118, 618, and 3,118? And isn't that faster? You could also do that.